Buffalo brother George, are you ready to talk playoff football?
I am, John. We haven't been together for a few weeks, with all that went on with DeMar Hamlin. We kind of stepped back and decided to let's just see what's going on with the team and DeMar and not post anything till we know everybody's doing okay. And it sounds like the kid is doing great.
Yeah, thank heaven. Thank heaven. Yep. Good.
That is the most important part of the whole thing. Yep. And we want to win a Super Bowl, but we want those players that we count on so much to have a good life and be healthy.
Right. Absolutely. We also got some other good news, kind of, with Crowder and Micah Hyde.
Yes.
Being put in there, coming off. Yeah.
Yep. They're off the IR. Yeah, off the IR and actually practicing with the team. We don't know what that means yet. It's not going to mean anything this game. But if they can move on to the next game, we'll see. I mean, I just don't know. Well, when Crowder when I rewatched that Miami game from the first game early in the year, week 3, Crowder was the return guy. If he comes back, are they going to take it away from Nyheim Hines after what he's done? I doubt it, but yeah, you never know. Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, just looking at it from a standpoint of what does it mean that they've been pulled up on?
Yeah.
The Bills have now 21 days.
Mm-hmm.
Where these guys can practice with the team, but they don't have to be put on the 53-man roster. They don't have to be put on the practice squad. They're kind of in this in between. They can't play in a game, but they can fully practice according to the rules. Now, whether or not they say they can fully practice is different. But for them to pull them off now and begin that window makes you feel that if the Bills continue to play, some point within 3 weeks, they must feel that these guys will be ready to contribute.
John, now clear it up for me if you know. If you're off the IR, if you're not on the active 3-man, are they on the practice squad?
No, they're in kind of a limbo.
Okay, yeah, because somebody had snitched Micah Hyde off of there for sure.
Right. They're in a window where they're allowed to practice, but the Bills do not have to make room for them on the 53-man roster, and they do not have to put them on the practice squad. This is the time period for the Bills to decide what to do with them, and for them to get up to speed to be able to get to a game and to be able to participate.
Yeah.
But if they felt that either one of these gentlemen wouldn't be ready within 3 weeks, they wouldn't have pulled them off at that time. They could have left them on IR. So the Bills have to win and continue to win in order for it to even make a difference. But I feel like they pull them off IR because they think that they will ultimately put them on the 53-man roster within.
Let's face it. The Bills feel. I mean, they definitely have a shortage at the safety position. DeMar Hamlin is their backup, and they're using the kid Dean Marlowe that they brought back just a few weeks ago. No. So they definitely have a shortage in safety, and if Hyde can go, I mean, you got to play him. And as far as Crowder goes, we've been talking about, or at least you have all year, about the shortage of wide receivers or competent wide receivers that the Bills have.
Yeah,
so, I mean, the potential's there.
Yeah, the wide receiver room didn't have a full set, a skill set that I was looking for. And I thought there were some gaps there.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to – I just don't have the feeling they're rushing Crowder back to play Cincinnati, Kansas City, or a potential Super Bowl game. But, because he hasn't played in forever. But we may be desperate at the safety spot, so we'll see.
Yeah, a wide receiver can go out there and run routes and never get the ball.
Yes.
Right? Or only get a pass thrown to them if the quarterback is scrambling and just needs someone.
Right.
Right. But from an X's and O's standpoint, they may never be the X. They may never be the one.
Yeah, they brought Beasley back, I got a feeling he's more apt to be the guy than Crowder. At this point, I think Crowder's a backup.
I think the fact that they put Beasley on the 53-man roster is an indication that they like what they're seeing in practice.
Yes, right. I agree with you.
All right, so we got a game coming up against Miami.
Right.
So it's always
third time this year.
Yep, and they are 1-1.
Yep.
Against Miami. So, in addition to saying squish the fish,
Mm-hmm.
do you have any thoughts on the upcoming game?
I do. I mean, I would, but it's the Bills offense versus the Miami defense, and then the Bills defense versus the Miami offense. And watching Skylar Thompson in his game against the Jets, he's not inept or anything like that, John. I mean, the kid can drop back. He can throw a straight pass. He can connect. I mean, he's got a stable of fantastic receivers. Let's face it. He's got Gesicki at tight end. He's got Waddle. He's got Hill. And he's got that Mozart coming out of the backfield. There's no question that they have weapons.
Would you say that they've got the best receivers in the division?
In the division? Yes. Yeah, in the division. Yeah.
Certainly better than New England. So, and I would say better than the Jets. It's tough with the Jets because they haven't had competent quarterback play.
Right.
Even with that. And then I think
I would say they rival Cincinnati's receivers.
I think you're for the conference. Yeah.
For the conference.
Yeah, I think they're right up there. I think you are absolutely right. And they went out and got Tyreek Hill specifically to do that, and I think they did. I think they succeeded. Yeah, they definitely did that. All right.
And when I watch the Bills defense,
okay,
and even though they're ranked as one of the highest defenses in the league, and even though they give up very few points overall, John, quite frankly, they're inconsistent.
Yeah.
They're inconsistent at best. You don't know what you're going to get. Are they going to be a strong run defense team, or are they going to flounder and just give up tons of yards by the run? And if not, they could be giving up tons of yards by the pass. Now, I understood the pass with not having a Micah Hyde in there, not having Tre'Davious White in there. But our pass rush has been much better. But the Bills' pass coverage in the backfield, they're playing very soft. And if you play soft, again, we saw in the game against Cincinnati a couple of weeks ago, and it was not even through the first full quarter, but Joe Burrows was eating up the Bills' defense alive, throwing the ball to his receivers. And there's no reason that Skylar Thompson can't make those passes to guys like Tyreek Hill and Waddle. And with the Bills, if they don't tackle, they're going to take a 4-yard pass and it's going to go 82 yards. So we have inconsistencies on defense, and that really makes me nervous.
Okay.
Then on the offensive side of the ball,
I was just going to ask you, what about the offensive side?
Are we a run team? Are we a pass team? Are we a pass team that runs? Are we a start to run and then we never run again? Do we have Cabbage Head at the quarterback position? Anybody that hasn't seen this before, I call Josh Allen Cabbage Head because he could be the Bills' very best player, and he also is the guy that makes the very worst decisions I've ever seen. He makes Brett Favre's interceptions look like make Brett Favre look great. Sometimes I just don't know what he is thinking. And when you watch this past year, you find that the Bills' offense has done the best when they're not afraid to take the check down and keep moving the ball. When the Bills come out on the first down and he throws an incomplete pass and it's 2nd and 10, for some reason, that's when they decide, well, maybe we should run the ball. And then he gets a yard if he's lucky, and now it's 3rd and long. And that's when Josh makes mistakes. When he gets in these 3rd and long situations, he finds himself sacks, he fumbles, he throws interceptions. He's just inconsistent. Now when I say he's inconsistent, he's more good than bad. Let's face it. He's more a great quarterback than a poor quarterback, but he does enough dumb plays to let the other team stay in the game. And we're always going into the 4th quarter going, that team's only down by 1 score. 1 interception, 1 fumble, we're in trouble. Just like they let the clock run out in that first Miami game. The Bills could have won that game, but they mismanaged the clock. So you just don't know what you're gonna get.
All right. I would have to say that I think your opinion is not uncommon. You're not alone with some of the criticism there. I know I've seen a bunch of statistics about the second half of the season. The quarterback play hasn't been, particularly good as far as quarterback rating.
Yeah.
Some of that criticism I felt was fair, and some I felt was unfair. If it's a 4th down play and a guy throws an interception, he's just forcing the ball because he's turning the ball over anyway. So I don't hold that against them, but the quarterback rating does. They don't figure it out, right? If the offensive line is a sieve on a 3rd down play and he has to run, they just expect QBR just expects that he's going to complete a pass, and that is only possible. Sometimes it's only possible because of his athletic ability. Other quarterbacks would have just been sacked. And then he sometimes gets himself into trouble where he tries to get away, and now you've got a 17-yard sack,
right?
Instead of either a throwaway or like he may know he's got an unblocked defender coming. And so he will just start moving.
Right.
And that can sometimes result in the big play, which is what we like to see and what we've come to expect from him. But then sometimes it doesn't. And there's either an interception at the other end or whatever. And another quarterback with less athletic ability might have been, I got an unblocked defender. I check my number 1 receiver, or I check my hot route. If it ain't there, I throw it away.
Right. I've been watching recently the supposed experts this week. What they're talking about is Josh Allen, don't worry about him this year. He's a playoff quarterback. He's thrown 14 touchdowns and over 1 interception. He's got 106 point something QB rating. He may be the greatest playoff quarterback in the history of mankind, But John, remember the Houston game where he got his ass kicked and he was sitting on the bench on the sideline, his first playoff game there, and he looked like a deer in the headlights? Do you remember the playoff game against the Indianapolis Colts in the first round? And I don't know still how the Bills defense was so bad, and somehow we still won that game. We squeaked it by. And then what about a loss to Kansas City? And then what about another loss to Kansas City? So to say he's this great guru in the playoffs, what has he done?
Well,
so he throws 1 interception, but if it's not the defense, it's him. Maybe he's fumbling, maybe who knows?
Because he's also the only quarterback to have a perfect game in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
No turnovers, no punts. Every possession
against New England.
Against New England. He's also the only quarterback who he brought his team back twice against Kansas City.
Yes.
For the defense and special teams to lose the game on him. 13 seconds victory, and he had no control over that.
And ergo, they might comment as like they are inconsistent. You don't know what you're going to get. And
You're
it's a
also talking-
defense, and the Bills going to get on the same page.
Looking at a Houston game where it was his first season as a starter,
Yes, I understand.
right? And in that game, he had one bad quarter,
Mhm.
which was enough.
It was a disaster.
Houston, well, it was enough to allow Houston to be able to now be in the game because they were out of the game.
Right.
And then Houston was able to, he brought them back to take the lead again. And Houston came back again to tie it.
Mhm.
That was the fourth quarter was a duel between two good quarterbacks
Yeah.
where they both went on games, what they thought could have been game winning drives, but game scoring drives when their team was behind. So there was, coming out of that game, it was a huge disappointment. They went into that game having difficulty scoring in the red zone. I don't know if you remember, but at the end of the season, that was their second year, they had exhibited a difficulty scoring in the red zone the last.
Yes. Right. They could get down there, but they couldn't score touchdowns because they had no running game, and teams were just
Creative enough,
yeah.
right? So I hear you. Every year is going to be a little different. He had some great play last year's playoffs, and it looked like he was at the top of the quarterback bundle.
Mhm.
Those performances. Ultimately, the team didn't win, and you didn't necessarily blame him for that because of his performance. And people are just expecting that he'll do that again. I don't know if that day he will. That might have been an opportunity where the Bills wasted those great performances, right?
Yes.
You may never see that again.
Yeah. And a window's open how long? And Buffalo, they were 13-3 this year.
Mhm.
And so many of those wins were by different than last year where they were losing by one score. They were winning by one score.
Mhm.
So the Bills have been winning games because of Josh Allen, because of the defense. But now we're in the playoffs and we're facing all good teams.
Right.
We're facing, and to get to the Super Bowl, or to win a Super Bowl, we got to win 4 straight playoff games. Miami, probably Cincinnati, probably Kansas City, and then maybe a team like Dallas, Frisco, or Philadelphia. Yeah. So it's a tough road to hoe.
It is.
Can they do it? Yes. But they have to be consistent.
And be consistent at a high level.
And I think they're still trying to figure out who they are on offense as they're entering the playoffs. And they're still juggling players, and they're bringing players back, and they brought John Brown in, and then they brought Beasley back, and they're still trying to figure it out. And they're going into the playoffs like, who are we? Do we run? Do we pass? How are we going to do? It might be too late. I don't know. I hope not.
Well, I would only look. I can't imagine that the offensive coaching staff thinks of themselves as a running team.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even comprehend that. So I think that they believe that they're a passing team that runs just enough to try to keep a defense off balance.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen a commitment to running the ball that leads me to believe anything other than that.
All right. Well,
But
how are the Bills going to win the game? I've been studying Miami. I look back, I rewatched both Bills games. I watched the Miami Jets game with Skylar Thompson. I've watched some other Miami games. And quite frankly, what they seem to do on defense, John, is they bring 6 or 7 guys a lot.
I'm sorry. This is Miami's defense.
Yes.
Okay. Do that. Okay. Well, that's good insight. All right.
So you got 5 offensive linemen on the Bills, and you got 6 or 7 guys coming. And if you leave one running back in there and they bring 7, they still got a free rusher. And if you don't have the running back there and you bring 6, you got a free rusher. And that's when Josh Allen Allen makes cuckoo mistakes. And that's when he gets strip sacked. That's when he doesn't let go of the ball because he's waiting for the big play to open. And
That's fair. I have a.
we'll see. I think that part is going to be tough on the Bills. I don't think they're scoring 40 points this game.
So you mentioned the Dolphins like to bring 5, sometimes 6.
6 or 7.
This year, we've seen a lot of keeping a tight end in to help block. So a consequence of that is, gee, Knox is not out, cannot receive a pass because he's not out there.
Right.
And I think that's part of the reason he hasn't been as much of the passing attack, because they really used him to block. He's played a number of snaps, but he blocks he's had a lot of blocking responsibilities, more so than what we've seen under Dable, who liked to use maybe running backs more in that role, or would bring in a second tight end for that and still allow Knox to be a receiver, whether that's in the slot or lining up at a tight end, a traditional tight end spot. But that's one less receiver on an offense that doesn't seem to have, they've got Diggs.
Yeah.
They got Diggs, and that's great. But they don't really seem to have guys that they can depend on other than Diggs.
Yeah, we don't know what the deal with Gabe Davis is going to be. Is he going to be playoff Gabe Davis, or is he going to be this guy that's dropping passes? Are they even going to throw to him? Or are they going to start throwing to Beasley, who's only been on the team 2 weeks? Are they going to be trying to throw it along to John Brown, who has been off the team for the whole year? Are they going to bring in a rookie and finally bring Shakir out? They're still trying to figure out who they are. But with that said, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, you mentioned Gabe Davis.
With that said, yeah, you're right. Okay.
And I know that you were watching, and I ended up watching a video from, was it Cover One, where they talked a bit about Gabe Davis. And ultimately, and I'll just summarize, if anybody hasn't seen that video, please, it's by Cover One. I don't know the title, but it's a good read. But
very good. Yeah.
Summarize their concern, I think Eric is his name. Eric's concern with Gabe Davis wasn't his ability, but the way they chose to use him. They're not using them between 0 to 9 yards as much, but it's used for intermediate passes and then deep passes. So just look for Gabe Davis. This is his last year of his contract. Whether it's with the Bills or somebody else, he's going to want to play next year, and he's going to want a contract. Selfishly, and for him, I would love to see him have a great playoff. Right? Because if he were to do that and again make a name for himself, his agent will really be able to roll that into, between the stats that he does have. His stats on long passes are very, very good. He's ranked very high with other wide receivers in the league. Against other wide receivers, he's ranked very high on long or deep routes. And I hope that works out for him. But I will say, in watching his routes, a lot of his being open is schemed. It's not great precision pass routes that is fooling the defensive back who's on him. Schemed, and it's attacking zones and seams and zones. Now, that's okay. And that returns to, it's also great quarterback play. Josh looking the safety off so that he can hit Gabe Davis in a seam or in a window. And that's gonna, as GMs and other teams are looking to sign him, they're gonna see, those scouts are gonna see that, and they're gonna be, well, can our offensive coordinator use that? Can our quarterback do this? And some is gonna be, yeah, to some degree, but to some degree, that's just Allen being Allen. Wanting to go deep when the route structure is for an intermediate pass to the tight end, but Allen going, oh no, I can hit him. And Gabe being the recipient of that. So I hope it works out for him overall, selfishly and for him, because he went to Central Florida, which is right here in my hometown. I go to Central Florida games. So I would love to see him do well and that lead to a nice big contract for him. I would also like to see him do well because it would probably bode well for the Bills. But he is not a number one. He doesn't exhibit.
At this point, yeah, I agree with you. He's not playing as a number one. And I'm still iffy as a number two. I hope so.
He is good enough as a number two.
But good enough as a number two, yeah.
Not an outstanding number two because of some limitations in this game. So we'll see what happens. I do think that some of I won't say, you can't blame an offensive coordinator for a quarterback looking at a defensive ball player and throwing him the ball. And we've seen him do that a couple of times, like literally throw a ball like as if he doesn't see the guy. It's like, right? It's just like, what the hell? How do you not see him? So you can't blame offensive coordinator for that. But I do think that some of the inconsistency in his play and some of the inconsistency in the offense is play design. And what they're choosing to call, or an inability to get out of a bad play at the line of scrimmage. I do think there is some of that, and continued experience will only help. But we're in the playoffs now. We want to win now.
One of the offensive reviews I saw on the Bills, which I thought was so accurate, was when Miami's defense is on the field. Like I said, they like to bring an extra guy. They try to make a matchup where they're bringing a free runner at the cornerback. And then what they do is you'll notice that, of course, the linebackers, but also the cornerbacks are playing at a depth where nobody turns their back to the quarterback to try and play man on the wide receivers.
Okay.
And by bringing the extra rusher at the quarterback, they're forcing Josh Allen to get rid of the ball early. And all the defenders in the backfield have their eyes on the quarterback. So when he goes to throw the ball, they are all taken off in a group to go at the potential receiver, most likely a very short pass or a dump off, limiting the yards that the Bills are getting and not giving Josh enough time to get anybody deep. But I think with the addition, if we see John Brown on the field, you're going to see the speed where the Bills are going to try and go long on Miami and try and get some big plays.
So if they
got the speed now,
with anticipating them possibly bringing extra, are you then mass protecting? You keeping guys in to protect, or are you letting Allen figure out how to elude?
I'm running away with Allen from the free rusher because he can throw on the run and buy time and let a guy like John Brown get a step or two on the cornerback. And by the time that cornerback turns his back on the quarterback to go after John Brown is buying. And I think we're going to see things like that. And but how many times a game can you do that? So I'm seeing the game where I think Miami's going to try and run the ball. I'm going to think they're going to try short little dump off passes.
Sure.
I think they're going to try and keep the Bills off the field and try and keep it as a lower scoring game. Because if it's a lower scoring game, they're in it. Because you never know when Cabbage Head's going to screw up. So they can stay in if it's a lower scoring game. But I see this game a lot like last week's New England game, where it really was a tight game through the first half. And Buffalo didn't pull away until the second half. And I see that happening again this week. I think the Bills will wear down Skylar Thompson. I think they'll get it figured out in the second half. I think they'll get some sacks. I think they'll get some interceptions. I think they'll stop Miami in the second half. but I think they're going to have trouble stopping them in the first half.
All
I
right.
think they're going to run the Bills.
You got
And that's,
a prediction for a score?
yeah, I'm thinking maybe like 24-17. I don't think the Bills cover a 13.5 point spread.
Okay. And then quick note. So some Pro Bowl list came out.
Okay.
Like NFL Players Association came up, pooled their players, and the players themselves picked a Pro Bowl list.
Okay.
And Tyreek Hill was not one of the top two. He wasn't on that Pro Bowl team.
Was Waddle on it?
No.
Wow.
And I think he was upset, and he came.
Yes.
So somebody was predicting he's gonna come out on fire and maybe get 200 yards this week. Is that you predicted a close game? Are you willing to go out? Like, do you have any thoughts on Tyreek Hill specifically?
Well, I think if he does 200 yards, they're going to murder the Bills.
Okay, but are you expecting that? Like,
no, I just don't think that kid has. Tyreek Hill would have to. The Bills tackling would have to be worse than I've ever seen it, because he's only going to get maybe 10-yard passes, and to get 200 yards, they're not going to throw to him 20 times. So he would have to be breaking tackles and going, 50, 60, 70 yards. So I don't see that.
Yeah, with his size and skill set, he's not so much a tackle breaker as he is a looter. The defensive players, he catches the ball, defensive players take an angle, but he outruns it, kind of thing. He's that great speed and agility. And we have seen him in that playoff game against Cincinnati. I mean, he absolutely eluded.
Well, let's say this, John. Who are they putting Trey White on, and who are they putting Kyer Elam on?
That's a great question. Will White follow Tyreek Hill around wherever they line him up? Will he stay on one side? What will Elam do? Will they just put Elam on Waddle and kind of hope for the best? I don't know. That's a great question. Will Elam will he get snaps over freaking Dane? I don't know. You never know with this defense.
It's like, which one of those two are you going to pick to shut down? Tyreek Hill or Waddle?
That's a great question.
Are you going to match Poyer up with Elam, the rookie, who's doing good? Are the two of them going to try and shut down Waddle, or are they going to try and shut down Hill? I think they got to try and shut down Waddle, and at least Trey White is familiar enough with Hill, playing him enough times in Kansas City, that I think we're going to see Trey White on Hill.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a good prediction. You're right. I think the score is good. I think the Bills, I think they might cover.
Okay.
I think the Bills cover. So, well, let's see how it goes. It's always exciting when the Bills play Miami. Right. It's all, whether it's in Buffalo or Miami, it's always exciting. It's a 1:00 game. Did you tell me that it was only the second or third 1:00 game they've had all year?
The first back-to-back 1:00 game.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So how far have the Bills come where they have
in prime time or in better
as many primetime games as 1:00? That's crazy, or almost as good. That's crazy. If not prime time, they were getting the 4:25 start so that they can still seen by the majority of the country. Isn't that something? This team is a long way from where it was 6 years ago.
You know some of the over and unders. Did you watch it? Uncle Dan's picks?
I did not. I tend not to watch the videos where he's alone.
The over on under for field goals for Bass is 1.5.
Over under on actual field goal scored for Bass. Is that right? That's interesting.
So, does that mean that Miami's defense is going to shut down the Bills, or the Bills are going to score that many touchdowns?
Oh, that's true.
I mean, how do you think about that? It's like, So he's going over. But then I'm thinking about it, okay, because over means he's got to get 2 field goals.
Right.
But over means that they're not scoring touchdowns. And heck, if the Bills are on, it could be like last year's New England game where they score like 7 times in a row or something.
Yeah.
Something crazy.
Well, yeah, no, I hear you. All right. So what are you thinking there? So over under 1.5 field goals for Bass. I don't know if you would make that bet, but what are you thinking?
Well, would you give Miami the ball on their own 38-yard line by missing a field goal, or would you punt them deep and tell Skylar Thompson you're going to have to take your team 90 yards?
Well, I would say the fucking kicker needs to earn his money. And they should take the field goal and he better make it.
See, I don't think so. I don't think they're taking field goals unless it's the first score of the game or the last score of the half, or if that's what puts them up by 3 scores or something. Look, otherwise, I don't think they're going for the field goals. And so, I mean, it's hard to say we're going to hold them to 1 field goal, but look, I'm saying it could be over, but no more than 2. I mean, they're going to be limited on field goals. That's my thinking. So if I'm betting, if I got a bet, I'm going to go over.
One of the things that occurs to me now, I know we're getting a little bit low on time here, but if we're on the Bills, if we're on the Miami 38-yard line, there's a good chance we're going for it on 4th down.
Mm-hmm. That's my question. Do you do that, or do you punt them deep and say your rookie quarterback is going to have to drive the team 90 yards?
I think, I know McDermott is a former defense coordinator, He has not been all that conservative. Some coaches are very conservative. And I think they go for it. I think he trusts his offense, trusts his quarterback. And if it's not 4th and 17, if it's something somewhat reasonable, I think they just go for it.
And that's when Josh throws those interceptions.
Well, it's 4th down. Who the fuck cares? It's a punt or he's got to try something.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, with that in mind, if he's going to throw an interception at the 5-yard line,
which he might,
that's better than a punt. So, okay, I'll go for that.
That might be the outcome because it's those. Yeah. Anyway, we've only got a minute left. Is there anything you want to say?
No, but let's enjoy the game. I gave you a lot of discouragement today with the Bills. I'm just concerned about their inconsistency, but I love them. Go Bills. We're in the playoffs.
And I apologies for anyone I'm a little under the weather here, so I'm sure you hear it in the voice, but go Bills. Enjoy the game, everyone.
See you next week.
See you next week, hopefully talking about a Bills victory.
Right.
All right. Night, everyone. Oh, cancel.